right, guys, listen, if your comps are off even by a little bit, you're not just guessing on price. You're gambling with the entire deal. Most wholesalers don't lose deals because they're lazy. They lose because they're working with the wrong data, outdated comps, misread markets, confusing software that they barely know how to use. That's why today's episode really matters. Craig Carlton is the senior operations trainer at Connected Investors, and he's helped thousands of investors get deadly accurate, sniper accurate with comps, hidden data trends in their local markets, and to actually make confident offers. So today, we are breaking down the tools, the tactics, and the no BS way to use data to win in any market, whether you're locking up your first deal or you're scaling up to 20 deals a month. Welcome to the Closers Club. Craig, my friend, glad that you are here. Let's jump right into it, okay?
Absolutely.
Most investors are either overpaying, or they're missing deals altogether because they don't trust their comps. So what is the biggest mistake that you see investors making, when they're running these comps and trying to evaluate properties, and how can you help them fix it fast?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for having me on, David. I appreciate it. So a couple things that I've noticed here as we're going along. So I think that one of the biggest mistakes that investors make when it comes to running comps is it's not that they're doing them right or wrong. It's how do you pick the right ones? How do you pick the right property? And so most softwares, most approaches are very stringent, right? So it's the half-mile rule. It's got to be the same year. It's got to have the same floor plan, the same footprint, the same square footage, the same lot size. All of these things have to be the same. And what happens is, especially if you're using a software tool, David, right? So if you're using a tool, generally those are kind of hard coded. So you'll use a product to say, hey, find me the top 5 or 6 comps for X property. And what it will do is it'll look for those properties. But the challenge is, what if you have a comp that it's 0.75 miles and it is a perfect comp? Maybe it's a really big neighborhood, right? And it's just outside, or maybe it's 2 years older or 2 years newer. A lot of times those really stringent requirements will bump out the actually good comps. So that's one of the biggest mistakes, is being so stringent that you're not willing to say, okay, well, maybe this 3-2 over here isn't the best comp. Maybe this one over here is a better comp. So then there's this indecision that happens. I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes. And then obviously picking the wrong property.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes I see with maybe not always with the investor, but when they hire like acquisitions people, sometimes they're so optimistic. They just gravitate to all those highest numbers so that they can pay more and not feel bad about giving a seller a low offer or lower than what they were looking for. So I can definitely see how that is a problem. And, that's what we want to do, is try to help them and get the right comps so that they can get these deals under contract and not only make some money, but help the sellers.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a really interesting thing. I was going to say, we did a really interesting thing, and you're going to love this when we run this comp. A quick story. I was doing a session where myself and an investor were doing a comp live, and we actually had her do it the old school way, where she went to Redfin and Zillow. And after about 30 minutes of doing this, she still had not come up with a comp. She didn't come up with the right comp. Really? She couldn't quite get the software to work the way she wants. You guys are going to love what I'm about to show you when it comes to comping.
I love it. Let's see it.
All right, so let's do that. So I don't know if you can see the software, if it's currently being shared on the screen.
Yes, magic. There it is.
Perfect. All right, so this is our dashboard. We've got some other videos that show you how to get here. But what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how simple, literally within a couple of clicks of a button, it is to find comparable properties for a specific location. So I have a whole bunch of properties here in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm going to just pick a random property. All right. Doesn't matter what the property is. Right. So let's make sure that it changed the screen, and let's go to, it didn't change screens when I did that. There we go. Oh, that's not the right one. Let me do that one more time. Let me go here. And
sometimes it does that when you're sharing screens. It's opening different windows.
I gotta have to reshare this screen like that. So that's fine, but we'll do that. All right. So now we're looking at this property. If you want to make that available, I don't know if they can see it or not, David.
There you are.
There we go.
Here we are.
Perfect. All right. So, so we have our property. Exactly. So this is over here in Cleveland, Ohio. And say this is a property that I've just come across, and I actually had a conversation, and they're interested in doing a wholesale deal. They're interested in selling. So the next thing that I do is I now need to go run my comps. I also got to run calculations, and we're going to do something on that later on down the road. But right now, I want to run my comps. I just want to find
Yeah.
out what property in this area is like this property that I could use as a valid comparable. So what you'll notice here is here's our property card. It's got everything about this property that you would ever want to know. But over here on the right-hand side, we have this thing called comps. And so what I did was I pushed a button. Now,
Got it.
I've never looked at this property before. And I hit the comps button, and David, I have 50 comps right now for this property.
Man, and I love how great your software is. Like, you can see pictures of the house. It's not just text on the screen. They're actually pictures. So you can see, is this a good comp? Does it look the same? Is it apples and apples? Does it look like my property? Because I don't want to comp a little like wood clad shack next to a brick
Right.
house, right? Like, I want to make sure they're real comparables. That's what comps mean.
Exactly. And so the way that we've done it is we give you the top 10 comps. And here's one of the distinctions. So remember when I said one of the biggest challenges is that most investors keep it really stringent. And that's not wrong, but oftentimes what happens is you don't
Mhm.
have the right properties showing up. So you are doing the comp the right way,
Yeah.
but you're just not getting the best result. What our software does is it's going to look for the top 50, and then it's going to take the top 10 and it's going to give them to you right here. Now we have something called the comp score, and I don't worry too much about the comp score itself. And the reason is really simple. It's just an aggregate of all of these data points. That's all that it is. So the higher the comp score, obviously
Got
the
it.
better, but I don't worry about the comp score to begin with. What I really care about is now I'm going to approach this like a traditional comparable. One key thing, David, a lot of folks
Mhm.
are like, well, will this teach me how to do comps? The answer is no, not really. Just like a calculator won't
Yeah.
teach you how to do math. You have to know how to add and subtract to really
Right.
understand what it's doing.
Sure.
So what we're saying is anybody that's looking to do comps, this thing right here will pull up properties faster than you could ever pull up properties in Zillow or Redfin doing it that traditional way. And what we're doing
Right.
is we're following all of the basic rules. So we're finding everything from the public record. Our method, these are properties. This one was bought with financing. These are all financed. The sold price, this was back, looks like it was sold in 2025. What it says here,
Pretty
recent,
recent.
and
Pretty
it sold for
recent. Last
135.
month and a half ago.
But here's comparable properties that are very similar. So we then go to our sold date. When did it sell? So this one's recent,
Yeah.
May, June, July. You can see that they're all within that 6-month threshold. Now, ideally, we want 90 days if we can get it, but within 6 months is generally a good comparable. But we're still there. Look,
Yeah.
May, this is a June. This one's a little bit older. Now, here's the cool thing. The moment that I see one that I realize that's probably a little bit out of the window, all I do is go like this. I hit remove. Now, when I remove
Okay.
it, it puts it right here in this pile. So it didn't go anywhere. It just removed it. And then what happens is it's
Yeah.
coming over here and it's impacting the value. Because what we're looking for,
Right.
we're really looking for two things. One, what's the property technically worth? Like, what's it worth? But then what we're really needing to understand is what did it recently sell for? What's somebody willing to pay, right?
Yeah. And I think what's interesting here is to look at, that property last sold for cash, meaning an investor bought it for 135. When you're looking at the comps that are listed there on the left, those are financed and
Exactly.
significantly higher. And probably if we look at those pictures, those are going to be our rehabbed comps. Those are our ARV
Exactly.
comps, right? After repair value. So, if I was buying this at 135 and I could say, oh, goodness, these properties are selling 485, 290, 250, how much is it going to cost me to fix it up? And that gives me some potential here to make some money. Is there a way to sort that list by just the method of purchase? So can we just look at other cash deals?
So the way that the comps work is it's not really looking at that too much, David. And the reason is we're using something called estimated value. Estimated value is a software approach to looking at the value of a property. So it actually is taking into consideration the true ARV comp, right? So what did it recently sell for? It's
Gotcha.
also looking at the assessor value, and then it's looking at the historical sale price of that specific property. It's called the AVM.
Mhm.
It's an automated valuation
Gotcha.
model. So that's how we're doing it. We're not really distinguishing between finance and cash because ultimately, as a wholesaler, we just want to know what can our end buyer ultimately sell it for? And so that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to find those properties. What did they sell for? Let me show you one other thing about this. When you're looking at it, you have the ability to highlight the differences. And this can also sometimes be a really good indicator, right? Of this is whether this is really spot on or really off. The fewer pluses and minuses, the red and greens, the better, right? That means it's more similar. But you're always going to get little differences. And this is that other distinction. So for instance, this one is 0.26, so it's in a great spot. I don't see any that are too far out of the way. But if we come down a little further in this list, so for instance, this property right here, this one's over a mile away, but it's actually kind of a similar comparable, even though, you know, it actually sold fairly recently. Looks like it sold July 31st. So it's a little.
Those are up-to-date comps, which is great.
Yes,
good data.
right. So what this is doing is it's taking into consideration those that also fall out of that area. And I think that's important because, well, I think it's important because it's giving you the true value of that market, right? That's how I see it. Right. So then what I can do is, if I like these comps, so this is sort of how you do it. You go through, you decide, hey, I want this one. I don't want that one. I can remove this one. I can remove that one. Now I've got 7 comps. Now I've got another number here of 296. Say I like these comps. Yeah. Well, the thing about comparables is they kind of are ever changing, aren't they? They're not always the same. But what if I wanted to save this? So I'm going to hit Save Comps Table. I may have to hit the refresh button here too because of the video that we're doing right now. Oh, so let me do that. I'm going to hit the refresh button. Okay. And then what will happen is when I go back to the comps, what it should do is it's going to save these comps for me. So if I walk away from this for a day or 2 or a week, and then I think I got to go back and now I got to look at those comps again. What will happen is you'll come in here and it's doing that weird thing where it will not reload. There it goes. It reloaded, but see if I can get it to reload here. There it is. So we can see that the comps were saved, and it saves the comps that I wanted it to save, right? So it saved these. What if I come back 2 months later? Because now this property now has new activity on it, right? Don't we all have properties that we want to make offers on, but they're just not ready?
Oh, yeah. And I think that's what's great about this is I love that it saves your comps because, right, we may talk to somebody and then they're like, hey, I'm at Walmart, call me back next week. And, you know, you can come right back to it. You can just drop right back in.
If it's a period of time, because we know that cash sales are happening all the time, properties are always moving. If I come in here and I realize, oh, wow, this is now, say it's November or December, and we're looking at this one from May, maybe it's not a great comp. All you simply do is hit refresh comps. This is one of my favorite pieces. It's going to run those comps brand new with today's data. Again.
Love it. Yeah, because maybe it went up, but maybe it went down. You know,
our property selling for less now, they're selling for more, maybe roughly the same. That's one of the really cool things about the way that our software, it's always active and live as long as you're saving and then refreshing, saving and then refreshing. So I love that.
So does it keep all of these properties on some kind of list that you can go back and search? Or if I just pulled it up like I was looking at it fresh, would it have all these
Absolutely. You can save them all to a list by simply hitting save to a list. And what it will do is it'll save each one of these to your comps list. So you can go Cleveland, Ohio. We could use a new list here. Let's use a new list. We'll call this one Cleveland, Ohio. We'll call it comps. And then all you do is you hit save. And this property right now is on that one. Let's go. We're not going to do that. We're going to get out of here. So I could save this one to a list, the same thing, and they'll all go on that one list. Yep.
Love it. Love it. That's really great. And then you have, what is my notepad on the side? Do I have a spot where I can keep some notes?
Great question. So the notepad serves a bunch of different purposes, but what you're looking at here is you're really looking at sort of like your communications hub, or, you know, what lists are it on? What's the status of the deal? Any notes that you've had? So if you have pictures, if you're collaborating with other investors that also have a subscription, you can get that here. Another thing is you can save all your calculations to this tab right here. Now we'll do another one where we run those calculations. But once you have run your comps, now you know what the property is worth. Now you got to run your calcs, right? And we have the ability to run a bunch of different calculations, and they'll save them right here for you. This is really sort of your little, it's like a little built-in little CRM, just a contact note for this property specifically. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. So when you pull it back up, you can drop right back into the conversation. Oh, hey, Mrs. Penelope, you know, I know you said you wanted to move to Phoenix because your cat had psoriasis or whatever. You know, how's that going? Oh, look at that. Beautiful.
Yeah, very cool
Beautiful.
how that works. So that's the
Yeah, that's a
what I
really
love
neat
about the
feature.
comps is there's nothing more to it than this. It's just now you
Mhm,
figuring out which ones work for you, which ones don't. Imagine going to Zillow,
mhm.
pushing a button, and they just give you your comps. Because that's ultimately what we're doing here. Because that's all that Zillow does. They just give you the ones that have sold recently, but then you as the investor still have to go in and do all of those run all those numbers.
In Zillow, I can't sort out and have it adjust the, the Zestimate or whatever, right? It's just
Exactly.
aggregating everything
Yep.
by square foot and hope for the best,
Yes, exactly. So the comps is so cool how it works. Once you get it open, now you can play with it and do whatever you want. I really like that. So that's comping. I wish I could make it more challenging than that, but it's not with our tool.
Yeah. That's really amazing. Nice. And is that the market view, or is that another, is that something completely
Yeah,
different?
so we have something called we have a market reports. We have every one of these properties has a what's called a full property profile report. So
Mhm.
what we're doing here is we're going to give you something called I kind of have called it the rap sheet of the property itself.
Uh-huh.
It
Rap
looks like
sheet.
a title light report. And what I'm going to do
Wow.
is I'm going to have to do this thing where I reshare and then reshare the screen
Okay.
with that little guy on the front page. I don't know if he's going to be there. Let me see if I can find him. Maybe he's in a window. There it is right there. Boom. So this is what's called the everything report. And this is really a title light. It gives you all of the information about the property, right?
Mhm.
It gives you information about the details, the property details, listing information, any open liens that are voluntary or involuntary. You have your prior loan history. So what this is doing is this giving you any insight to the property to see if there's anything going on, right? When you're running comps, a property that has liens and whatnot on it, you're not going to make an offer based on what the value is. You're going to base on it with what the value that you're willing to pay plus all of those liens. You got to get rid of all that stuff. So what
Sure.
this does is it just gives you a look at the history of the property. But then down below this, we're going to go another step and we're going to provide you another set of comparables.
Ah, look at
And this
that.
one has a visual cue to it. And what
Mm.
I like about it is a lot of the properties on this one are identical to the properties that you see inside of the software, but they're actually not connected. They're not talking to each other. So
Okay.
this is a completely different report that's getting sent out. And what you'll see is we're taking that traditional approach. So here's our subject property right here. It's a little bit small. I think you can see it though. And
Yeah.
then here's all of our surrounding properties. Plus, it also gives you anything that's currently listed on the
Oh,
market, which
that's
is
pretty
one
cool.
distinction. So now I can say, hey, these properties that are in purple, these nearby listings, and I think if I find it right here, the nearby listings, I can see what it sold for, when it sold, and all of that. So I just think that this thing is really cool because this one for me, while I don't go too granular, it's a
Mhm.
visual cue. It gives me an idea of, okay, well, what's going on in this market, what has been selling recently, etc. It's kind of like an older thing that we used to have, which was our I'm forgetting the name of it, but you could look at the map and see all of these really cool pins. They're
Right.
not there anymore. This takes the place of that. And then at the very bottom of it, we're going to give you some really cool just market trend data, which is
Mm.
really understanding what's going on in the last 30 days in Cleveland, Ohio. You can see that new listings are down 9%,
No.
closed sales are down 55%, only 10. You
So
can
I
see your
think that's great data right there, because that helps the average wholesaler who's maybe unsure, feel more confident when they're talking to these sellers, right? Like,
exactly.
listen, MLS listings are down because the market, we're shifting from that seller's market into a buyer's market.
That's right. That's right. And so that's the market, the total view report, and it comes with every single property. So without fail, every single one of them gets that. All right. So I went ahead and closed that current tab. Oh, that actually worked.
Wow.
Close that.
Technology's on our side today.
Exactly.
So, Craig,
And
let
that
me
was
ask
the
you this.
gist of it. Actually, that was the gist of it. That's so simple, right?
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You guys are training investors, across all skill levels, right? Beginner, intermediate, advanced. Everybody's using your software. How are people like reacting right now to the shifting market? Are they like overcorrecting, hesitating, or, hopefully if they're using the software, they're not out there flying blind.
Uh, I see a lot of hesitation. That's what I'm seeing. I see a lot of people that are
Mhm.
really uncertain, right? The market is very strange
Yeah.
right now. Some markets are still very, awesome. some not so awesome.
Yeah.
What I think
Mhm.
happens is a lot of folks would be nervous about going into a foreign market. I don't mean like a foreign country, I just mean foreign to them, right?
For
So for
sure.
instance,
Yeah.
if you are using our software, you can actually look for property all over the country. So maybe you've got a desire, you're in Miami, but you really want to pick up some property in Cleveland because you've heard there's great deals. This tool will give you the
Yeah.
confidence to know that your comps are right, even if you don't know the market. So
Mhm.
the hesitancy of
Yeah.
lack of knowledge for specific markets, I think, is one of the biggest things that holds folks back. They have to either
Mhm.
talk to a person that's in the market or they've got to access some sort of data. And I feel that our data is second to none when it comes to looking at those markets,
Mhm.
especially that comping tool. I mean,
Right.
imagine, David, having this 15 years ago where you could do that comping with a push of the button.
Oh,
How many more deals do you think you would have
no,
sold?
we didn't have
Yeah,
any of that stuff. We were like cavemen, scratching, hash
yeah,
marks on the wall. Like it's fascinating how much the industry has changed in the last 20 years. I talked to some of the old timers and they comped by pulling out a
right.
newspaper. And literally, listings, we're old enough, right? Listings used to be by
That's right.
neighborhood, and you would go through that and have to drive to that address and look at it and go, oh, okay, great, that's selling for, or it's listed at 295 or whatever it was. So no, I mean, the technology and especially what you guys are doing today is so helpful for investors, to take away that fear and to take away
That's
that
right.
trepidation and be able to look at this and go, hey, here are the numbers. Here's the cash sales. If I just want to, be apples and apples, I can look at the deals that were sold for cash and know that that's what people are
Exactly.
willing to pay. But also the finance properties, right? Those are probably going to be properties that somebody bought and
Yep.
fixed up. And this is, my property in optimum condition. This is what it
Yeah,
could sell for.
exactly. Yeah. Game changer
Fantastic.
for me personally. I mean,
Yeah.
I that's one of my least favorite things to do is comping because you have to spend so much time finding them. Literally one push of the button, and then I
Yeah.
just pick and choose the ones that make the most sense. So,
Right. And what's amazing about software like this is, again, it just takes
yeah.
all the guesswork out, right? Like it's very easy to pin the tail on the donkey and, get to the number that's going to be correct. Well, let me ask you this kind of a final question, Craig. Let's say somebody's in a crunch, right? Because we all know what this is like. You're on the phone with a seller and they want an immediate offer. They want to know right now, right? So you're in a crunch to make an offer fast because we know time kills all deals. And if I, put them on hold or I just say, yeah, I'll call you back tomorrow, somebody else could call in and get that deal. But um, how do they use, that comping service and market view to make sure that they get that offer done as quick as humanly possible so that they can get that deal and help
Yeah.
that seller?
So, well, for one, it gives you your value of your property, right? So when you're saying, okay, well, what's
Mhm.
my maximum allowable offer? When you're looking at it, you're going to say, well, the number is 425. You'll know that's your maximum allowable offer because that's the average price of properties in that area that are selling. So you can
Love
base
it.
your initial calculation off of that number. Now you may have to
Mhm.
adjust it as you go, as you find more
Right.
problems, more repair, et cetera, less repair.
Sure. Sure.
But the idea is that you're just looking for that value. If you get that value, then you just use our calculators, which we got to do another session with our calculators to
Yes.
show everybody
Yes. We'll do that.
how those work. But you just plug a few numbers in. In fact, it does most of the plugging of the numbers in. I can run comps and I can run calculations in less than 30 minutes, really in about 15 minutes using
Wow.
this tool. So
That's
what I get
absolutely.
is I get a quick, like for instance, hey, I need a response in an hour. Well, traditionally, I wouldn't be able to do it that well. maybe
No.
maybe
No.
if I
Dude, it
really
used to
know
take
that market.
hours to do comps. Like
Exactly.
this is so fast and such an amazing tool. Craig, thank you so much for coming on the Closers Club. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to do the next one. We'll definitely look at that calculator. Guys, if you're watching this and you like it, please share this info with, another investor or in another group where you really feel like this would be the answer. Let me flash up on the screen here. There we go. Let me get you guys a link and put it in the comments, and it will also be in the show notes here.
That's right. We do have a free
Sorry.
trial right now. We actually
Yeah.
have some really good deals going on. So definitely check it out. Come by, see us. We've got really good things. We have training every day that we do.
Mhm.
I'll be
Oh,
jumping on
yeah,
that here
so
pretty
much.
soon. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, this link that I'm going to flash up here in a minute, limited time only, gives you a 7-day free trial to give all this stuff. Just kind of run it through the ringer and make sure that it all works, which we know it does, or we wouldn't be bringing Craig on here. But also 2,500 free skip traces with your subscription, which is just absolutely amazing. So click this link and, jump on and give it a test run, and let's see how this will help you in your business to make deals faster so that you can lock these down before they, they get snapped up by somebody else who wasn't just dragging their feet.
That's right.
Awesome. Craig, again, thank you so much for being on. Can't wait to do this again. And I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Thanks, David. You all have a great rest of your day.